really nice. But the thing is, it's right in his eyes. Where you had it before was really good, Andy, in terms of him. Well, I'd have to get out there to see, but... man, I can't even tell what I'm looking at through this thing. It lights so bad.
I've done a lot of work in LA area, and then my specialty is I do that with either county offices.
Well, I'm very glad that you are here. Very honored by your presence. It's always a pleasure to interface with students of this school. And I thank Katie, Burke, and Brock and Armando, but I see you, I go to Maurice.
The great Maurice.
Harry Cooper, another friend of mine. I see that they are responsible somehow for what happened. What I intend to do today is to give you an idea of parts of my book, The New Science of Organizations, which is to be published this year. And in this book, I am trying to do several things. One of the things that I'm trying to do in this book is to present a historical overview of the field of administrative science. One part of my book is dedicated to the description of the way administrative science or administrative theory has evolved since the late 19th century and until today. And there are several ways of periodizing the history of the field in which you are trying to get either a master's degree or a PhD. One of the ways is to divide the history of the field into periods according to the models of man, which each period took for granted. So if we want to label this talk, one of the titles that we could use is Models of Man and Evolution of Administrative Science, Models of Man and History of Administrative Science. Which is not, this is not the first time that people try to periodize the evolution of an issue or of a topic in terms of models of men. As a matter of fact, I would like to mention one of the most outstanding books that in which you find this technique of periodization. And this book is the book by David Riesman and two other persons, The Lonely Crowd, in which David Riesman presents the history of the American social character since the beginning of the colonization in this country until today, proposing three models of man. First, the man that he called the inner-oriented man, the individualistic man, oriented to fulfill himself rather than to fulfill society. The man who is highly influenced by the Protestant ethic, by Protestantism, which is a type of man that, according to David Riesman, coincides with the history of the United States until more or less the Great Depression, the 30s. And then he suggests another type of man, which is the other-oriented man, the man who is highly influenced by groups, by what the other people see about him or her, which coincides with the stage of the American social and economic structure that begins after 1930, after the Depression is overcome and the United States enters a period of material affluence. And then he finishes his book with a chapter that he entitled The Autonomous Man, which is, according to him, not a man that, when I say man, I mean a woman, right? I must warn you that I am not a male chauvinist, but the language that we speak is male chauvinist, so we don't know what to do in order to speak in terms of what my heart feels about women. I love it. The last chapter is The Autonomous Man, which is, according to him, not a man that is already widely representative of the American reality, but it's an emerging type of creature that is groping toward the disenthrallment from this syndrome of relative deprivation that characterizes the over-oriented man, and also trying to move away from the Protestant ethics and build herself or himself on autonomous grounds. Now, so that it's not by doing this kind of thing, David Riesman is one of the most important representatives of what is technically called in the United States psychohistory. He is a psychohistorian. He's showing the transformations of the American character throughout the several stages of evolution of the American economic and social structure. So in a certain sense, what I'm going to do today is an exercise in psychohistory. It is psychohistory of administrative science. We are looking at the history of the field from the psychohistorical viewpoint. And if we do that, then according to my view, we can say that there have been three models of man throughout the history of our field. One is the operational man, which is the type of man that was implied in Taylorism, for instance. You all know that administrative science was founded in the United States by Frederick Taylor. At the same time that that a French Henri Fayol was also beginning administrative science in Europe. Both Henri Fayol and Frederick Taylor looked at the individual in the organization as an operational being, a being or a creature that is essentially motivated by material rewards. If you reward well a worker in the organization, he reacts as a piece, a part of a machine. He's an operative person. He does not want, or he does not ask for anything but material rewards. And the manager can take the best of the individual by treating him as an operational creature. You do your job, I tell you what you should do. You should not tell me what you want to do, because I know what you have to do. You know that the Taylorian system is a very authoritarian kind of system in which anything that the worker is supposed to do has to be told by the foreman, by the manager. He is a person who reacts as a kind of machine. He's a machine. So, when we analyze the approaches to organizational design and analysis since the rise of Taylorism until more or less the late 30s, we realize that the operational man is always an assumption upon which all these approaches are predicated. All these practitioners and theoreticians who work since the late 19th century until the late 30s predicated the individual in the organization as an operational person, an operational creature. Then a second type of man was predicated by this following period of administrative theory, which is characterized by the rise of human relations. You remember the so-called human relations school that we started with these studies led by Eltomayo and the Hawthorne Electric Company, Eltomayo was helped by Hedges Berger and Dixon, and these two men published a famous book, Management and the Worker, in which they reported the findings that their research in the Western Electric Company. And from that kind of research, from that moment on, the humanistic kind of school in the administrative field began. And what is characteristic of this period is that the conception of man, the conception of the individual in the organization changed. Instead of practitioners and theoreticians of the second period, which goes, let us say, from the late 30s until I would say until now. And I'm making a polemical statement because some chroniclers of our field see several periods. I don't see more than a second. I still think that in spite of the fact that there are many strategies and approaches to organizational design and organizational analysis, such as systems theory and behavioral science and so forth, we are still predicating man in the organization as a reactive person. So the reactive person is a person that does not so easily comply with orders, does not easily yield to what the manager says. It's a person who tries to broadcast to management, to the manager, their feelings, their needs, their personal needs. And the management has to give some kind of attention to other features of the conduct of the worker that the practitioners and theoreticians of the first period neglected. So in the second period, management tends to use psychological techniques in order to increase the degree of satisfaction to the extent of going toward the family life of the individual in order to facilitate the process of socialization of the working together. So the scope of features of the organizational analyst and design expands. It's not so narrow as it was during the first period, because one of the things that characterizes the human relations school since the beginning is the discovery that man is, or woman, mainly women, are more complex than the Taylorian people supposed. And they tried to hit this other aspects of the human in order to take from the individual in the organization the best they can for the benefit of the organization. I think that we are still in this period. We are still in the period of the reactive man. I am at a certain point of my talk, I'm going to give you these pictures, and we can be more analytical. Now, I claim, for reasons that I'm going to explore a little bit with you, I see a new type of person emerging in the United States and in the world. It's a person that I call the delimitative person. The delimitative person. And what I call the delimitative person, the delimitative man, is a man that is neither operational, essentially operational, neither essentially reactive. Is a person that somewhat coincides with what David Riesman called the autonomous man. Is a person who refuses to be manipulated by formal organizations, by institutions. Is a person that has a very live sense of herself or of himself, and look at the organization as something not essential to his or her life, something incidental, not something essential. The delimitative man is a person who realizes that human actualization takes place incidentally in organizations, formal organizations, in which the individual is a job holder. The delimitative man refuses to identify himself or herself as essentially a job holder. The job that he holds is accidental and incidental. The bulk of his or her actualization does not have anything to do with the job setting. Essentially, a deliberative person actualizes himself or herself, not in the job setting, but somewhere else. He may incidentally actualize himself in the job setting, incidentally, but essentially he is able to shop around and go toward many settings that are not the job setting in which he gets a start, in order to have a sense of personal accomplishment. But those are, in general, the models of man according to which I see these three fundamental periods of the history of our field. Now, I'm going to give you a graph that you have, and you can, I'm sure that we do not have time to go into all these features of this three models of man. But I would like you to take a look at this picture. Now, why did these three models of man present themselves in the history of our field according to this sequence? Why did these three models of man why did these three models of man present themselves according to this? Yeah, the answer to this question is very complex, but let us simplify the answer by just taking a look at the evolution of the occupational structure of the United States. The occupational structure of the United States. This may give you one of the fundamental ideas of the reasons why this sequence of models is present. You see here that 1900 you have here percentage of workers, and here you have the years. In 1900, about 37% of the labor force of the United States was in agriculture, farm agriculture. And today, we have less than 4% of the labor force of the United States in agriculture. So that means that less than 4% of the labor force of the United States produce the amount of food that the American citizens need. Only 4%, only less than 4% of the labor force. So 96% of the labor force of people who work, who labor, are in the industry, the second secondary sector, or in services. What does this mean? This means that the technological logistics of this country is so refined, so highly qualitative that we can afford to have 95% of the workforce not producing food. That's why the United States is a developed society, so to speak, because the degree of productivity of the economy of the United States is so high that we can meet the needs of food of the American people by allocating only 4% of the population in agriculture. In Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, in each nation of this continent, you have, in general, more than 50% of the population, sometimes 70%, sometimes 80% of the population in agriculture, because the productivity of the economy of these nations, developing nations, is not sufficiently high for having people, a great number of people working in industry and in services. But in a certain sense, when Taylor was influencing the techniques of managing organization in the United States, the American economy was still very similar, somewhat similar to the economy of the countries that we today call developing countries or underdeveloped countries. The United States was an underdeveloped country in the late 19th century, in the early 20th century. And so that to have a job in this period in which Taylorism was the overarching orientation of the field was very important. The degree of material affluence of this country was not so high, so that to have enough food, to have enough clothes, to have enough shelter, to have the minimum transportation, those survival needs satisfied, was very important. That's why Taylor would treat the individual in the organization as an operational man, because the basic needs that they had at that moment was needs of survival from the vegetative population. So that was a situation that was common to most of the people in the United States. And there was no way for people in that moment to be sensitive to things that we now are sensitive. We cannot transfer the state of mind that we have today in the present history of the United States to that period, because people were different. People were living a different history. People, the workers were making this country a developed nation. The United States was not yet a developed nation. So the workers were supposed to be treated as operational men. You remember, you may not be so young not to have grandparents who tell stories to you how important it was to have a job and what the commitment to jobs that your ancestors had, because they were shaped by historical conditions that were very different from the historical conditions that shape us young people. I must say that you may have an autobiographical information, because when I started my work life in Brazil, Bahia, I still work, I started to work from 7, special hours I had from 7 to 8 o'clock, 7 in the morning to 8 o'clock. And then when I became a public servant, I worked Saturdays. When I had, I don't remember when, because this Saturday off, that was a tremendous. I could never believe that I could have this Saturday off. You have not seen this. I have seen these changes in my life. See? And I remember how important it was for me when I was very young to have a job in my country and to have a position in the bureaucratic system of the government. It was very important. It was something that gave me a tremendous leverage for me to do things that I wanted to do. And it was nothing more than a very demanding job. So because of the nature of this historical, economic, social system, we somewhat develop a kind of psychology that becomes congenial with operationalist kind of managerial stuff. Now, nevertheless, you have between the 40s and the 50s a tremendous improvement of the economy of the United States, such as translated by the percentage of laborers in agriculture. You have this drop. This drop is continuous, consistent, to technically speak, secular. Now you can look at what happened with blue collars. Blue collars, as you know, and they are classified here. This is the bicentennial. This is a small manual of the bicentennial statistic of the bicentennial was widely distributed in the United States. And what they call here blue collars are craftsmen, foremen, operatives, laborers. In other words, people who work in the industry. But the blue collar had the percentage of blue collar had an ascensional moment, and then it goes like this and has a trend now to decline. And it's going to decline. The white collars are include people, laborers like professionals, technicians, managers, administrators, clerical, and sales. That is the terminology of the labors. So what and service here includes people who do nothing but be engaged in communication. They don't produce things. They are not good producing. They don't produce directly goods. They are services. But in fact, this graph is not technically well done because there is an overlap between both white collar. Technically, there is, but I just did not have time to prepare a special graph for this session. Just with this. This is a magnification of this. If I were to use this according to the terminology of my book, I would make some modifications because under the label of blue collar, there are many people who are handling services. White collars are people that basically are handling service. They are engaged in service. They do not produce directly anything. And service, as it is proposed in this bicentennial manual, should be included here. So that what's happened is that the American economy is the first service economy of mankind history. It is first service economy of mankind history just because it's an economy in which most of the laborers are in services. we have reached a point of our economic and social revolution in which most of those who have jobs in the United States are in services. 75% of the job holders in this country are in service. So only 25% of the job holders of the United States work in industry and in agriculture. So this is a highly productive economy that has a very high degree of productivity. One interesting thing that happened when between the 40s and the 50s was just in the aftermath of the Hawthorne study of the Alberto study. What we call today motivational research, motivational psychology, behavioral science started to be highly utilized in the United States. In this period, behavioral science, this is the age of behavioral science. The age of behavioral science started here, in this decade, in the aftermath of the Hawthorne study and continued to. And I would like to transport your mind to the 40s, in which the issue motivation research was for the first time raised. When the management of the organization tried to hire psychologists, not only to better adjust people to the activity of the organization, but also the management of organizations hired people to develop advertising, to induce people to consume. So it's very interesting that in this first period, until the late 30s, the emphasis was on saving. People were savers. People would not consume widely. They would avoid consumption. They would save. You remember your grandparents, they are saving. You don't spend money because the period in which they lived taught them to spend everything, but they wanted to play safe. In this present moment, beginning in the 40s, however, the emphasis of the economic development of the state is on spending. This is a period in which the economy of the United States enters a period of multiplication of items of consumerism. You have probably 50 brands of soap, 100 brands of toothpaste, or everything that we have plenty of variety of people. The economic system fight toward persuading people to consume, because the economy at this level cannot continue to grow unless people spend money. This is the age of the express card, the master charge, credit system. And if you do not have a credit card, you are not a person, you are induced, you open your mailbox, and every day you are offered credit and so forth. It's completely different. Spend. But I would like to give you a feeling of a moment in which one of the first behavioral scientists was thinking about what was happening, this transition. This is a man by the name Dr. Ernest Dichter. This is cited in a very interesting book that you all know, The Organization Man, William White Jr. which is a man who studies essentially what's happening during the second stage of the American Revolution. And he cites one statement of a motivational researcher, a behavioral scientist, who uniformly said, "We are now confronted with the problem of permitting the average American to feel moral even when he is flirting, even when he is spending, even when he is not saving, even when he is taking 2 vacations a year and buying a second and third car." One of the basic problems of this prosperity, then, is to give people the moral sanction and justification to enjoy it and to demonstrate that the hedonist approach is moral, not an immoral. That's exactly what continued to happen since 1940. We are persuaded to find moral justification for our behavior as spenders. Now, we could go into more intricate analysis, which I do in my book, that, because this is a very interesting aspect of the history of our field. If we take into account the economic policies that the government in this stage, in the United States, started to employ, I just would like to mention as a point of interest that we should pursue in this study the name of Lord John Keynes, the British economist. Keynes. Keynesianism is a new stage of liberal economy. And Keynesianism was a new species of economics that was applied after the Depression. It was Lord Keynes who gave the government of the United States and Great Britain the policy model that they needed in order to allocate resources from now on. And if I were a student of public administration today, I would try to consider as a topic of my dissertation the relationship between Keynesianism and behavioralism and the techniques of management from the 40s until today, because there is, as I try to show in the book, some parallel between the guidelines of Keynesianism and what people are doing, technicians, practitioners, and those are doing in the field of management. So we are here in 75. And I would like also, in order to characterize the state of mind of the 1970 America, to mention this book that was the #1 bestseller during 7 months in 1970, Up the Organization, by Robert Towson, was a book that became a bestseller during 7 months, number one in the New York Times bestseller list. The New York Times publishes each week a list of bestsellers, and it was steady a bestseller for 7 years.
Robert who?
Huh? Robert Towson. Now, first of all, let us, what does the fact that a book like this become? a bestseller tell you? One thing will tell you is that there has to be a confirmation, the public that the citizens that are buying this book so eagerly yield to the argument of the book. So they agree with it. They have to essentially agree with what the writer is. Now, the book has a subtitle: How to Stop the Corporation from Stifling People and Strangling Profits. And in the introduction, he says, "We have become a nation of office boys, monster corporations and monster agencies have grown like cancer until they take up nearly all of the living working place. Like clergymen in Anthony Trollope's day, we are but mortals traded to serve immortal institutions." And he finished, "This is not our natural state." So I think a great part of my book is a categorization of these feelings. My book presents a number of documents that reflect this anger. People are angry. People in the United States feel that they have been fooled by the system, by the advertisement establishment, by these multifarious procedures according to which people are induced to buy what they don't need. There is some kind of feeling of entrapment. There is a feeling of entrapment widespread in the American society. And this feeling of entrapment has to have an impingement upon the orientation of the field of public administration on one side and administrative side. I read this kind of document, and this is not one, there are many. Last week a book was published by Basic Books by Edward Richards, which show he's an economist. He's studying the transformation of the workplace. And he's showing that the workplace is trying to seize more and more the individual, surrender the life of the individual, encircle the individual by giving things, by making things easy or less painful than it was. So there is a sense that something is being overgone. I react to the present state of the psychology of the American people by proposing a new paradigm, a paradigm of the emerging science of organization. When I read things like that, not only when I read things like that, when I talk to my students, when I talk with people on the street, when I talk to my family, of the members of my family, I have 5 American granddaughters, and I have a daughter-in-law and son-in-law and so forth. I talk with these people, friends or kind of people. What I feel is that they are realizing that we are entrapped. And they want to disentrap themselves from the kind of economy that we have. And in scientific terms, I try to convey my reading of the American reality in this graph, which is entitled para-economic paradigm. I cannot explain it now what para-economic paradigm would take me to our day. But in my view, what I think that is going on is that Americans are trying to beat the market. A great number of Americans are trying to beat the market. The market has embraced America, the American citizen, and they are realizing that, and they want to delimit the market and disrupt in terms of the possession. The market has been too possessive. That's why people are talking about alternative lifestyles. People are trying to be frugal, learning to be frugal. People are interested in growing food in their backyard. People are trying to reconstruct the crafts. They are learning those things. Do things, not to buy things. They are trying to restore things that they feel that they have lost, and buy the least they can. A number of trends are taking place in the United States that lead to believe that there is a process of delimitation taking place in the United States. So delimitation, what I call delimitation, is not a capricious invention of mine. It's something that is built in the American system. The United States is the showcase of what I call delimitation of the market system. Something that is very alive here. What I am doing is I am categorizing this trend. Now, to be more clear, I see several dimensions today in people's life, in people's reaction to work and organization. And let us try to explain this chart, this matrix. You have the prescription, this line, this vertical line. This represents a continuum whose poles are prescription and normlessness. This horizontal line is a continuum whose poles are isonomy and phenomenon. Now, whose poles are community orientation and personal orientation. Forget isonomy and phenomenon. So this horizontal continuum has as for community orientation and personal orientation. In a certain sense, those are basic concerns of any person. Each of you is concerned with all these things. Personal orientation. You have a personal orientation. You are concerned with your identity. You want to be yourself. You want to do something that represents yourself. That is not you as a job holder, or you as a role player. It doesn't matter if you are rich or poor. You remember the 60s when poor people, I want to be me. Songs, poems, novels, seizing the imagination of people to the extent that they are appealing for the drive toward personal realization. This is a concern. Another concern that people have is a concern for sharing, for community, for engaging in community, and that the family, the neighborhood, the voluntary associations which are not economizing associations. They are associations that are concerned with the good of the whole, not to sell something to make profit. People more and more are trying to learn how to develop this kind of association. And what happens is that if you take this line, you have here a point of high prescription. The more you go this way, the more prescription you have. When you go down, you have less prescription till you reach the point of zero prescription, not less than. Bureaucracies, job settings, which constitute the essence of economic systems, are here when we are an employee of a formal economized organization. We have a contract to deliver an output. We are paid for that. So there are prescriptions superimposed upon us. When you are here, by definition, you accept to be sensitive to prescription. If you are a member of a faculty, you have to publish, you have to produce, you have a number of pressures. You cannot do whatever you want. Your degree of selecting, of eliciting, of what you want to do is very narrow when you are an employee. Because the name of the game of economizing formal organization is to deliver certain outputs that constitute the essence of the activity of that respect, of that particular economizing of formal organization. Prescription. And prescriptions are chronic features of society. It's impossible to run the business of any society without prescription. I'm showing this not to encourage you to think that we are going toward a moment when prescription will not exist. We will never reach a point of a society revolution in which prescription will not exist. But prescription will always exist. The problem is degree prescriptions impinge upon our. That's the problem. We feel that they are impinging too much on our. So people, the market system is a system that imposes prescription. Now, if you come down from this line, you have less prescription. Suppose that you are a member of a PTA association. Why do you attend meetings of a PTA association in your neighborhood? It's not because of reasons of economizing nature. Not. It is for reasons of ethical nature. You are concerned with the good of the children. You are concerned with the way the school has been managed with some drugs. And you have a setting there. The PT association is a setting in which you do not have a management. You do not have management on one side and the workers on the other side. You have an association in which everybody is managing. The individuals manage themselves. There is no dichotomization between management and work because all the members decide, they share the decision-making process. They are equals. Suppose that the APT association one day decides to have a party or to raise money, and in order to make to make the party, they decide to raise some money. It may happen that one particular person in that PTA association has financial capabilities, and this person is assigned the task of raising money, and because he knows or she knows that he has more authority. But this does not mean that that authority is to be a status, a permanent status. The moment that assignment is no longer necessary, this person will be having another role as a civil member, and another person may have some authority upon the other, according to the capabilities of them. So this is what I call an isonomy. An isonomy is an association of peers, an association of equals, an association in which you do not have this dichotomization that you find in formal economizing theory. And it seems that isonomies meet a number of fundamental needs of people. It's good to be an isonomy. An isonomy is a place in which you go there because to go there is an end in itself, an end in itself. It's good to be there. My friend Arthur Bierman, that Terry Cooper knows, at least by through his book, is a man who developed several artistic art programs in the neighborhoods of San Francisco. And he's organizing art programs which consist of assembling in several neighborhoods of San Francisco people who play piano, saxophone, or paint, and so forth. And he's designing these societies and bringing people who live in the neighborhood before him as strangers. Now they're becoming friends, and they go, and the neighborhoods are revitalizing themselves by producing a number of isonomies, associations in which you go, not because you have a status, you have a role to play, you have a function, but because you know something and people enjoy what you're doing, and you enrich your life. You actualize yourself by becoming a participant in this kind of society. It seems that we cannot afford to dismiss isonomy. The moment that isonomies lose the function in a society, isonomic endeavors, in which the degree of prescription is low. There is some prescription. But the prescriptions are set not by something above the members, set by themselves. So this kind of prescription becomes more tolerant, becomes almost non-prescription. And if you go down, you reach a point where prescription disappear, and I will comment on that later. Here you have another kind of setting, which is a setting for your personal actualization. Without being systematically conscious of this, people very often engage in phenomenomic endeavors. If you visit the house of a person, how many times I invite him to go to a student house, and I realize sometimes that I really gained something more about the person who I knew only as a student by watching his house or her house. Because the house, the houses in which we have always a place in which we show ourselves. If I go to the office, the very private space that is yours, where you do things alone, you, without knowing, provides me with a number of things that help me to better understand. You may have a painting, you may have a sculpture. People have to design something. There is a design, a need of design. And some people are much more conscious than others. What I call phenomenon is a setting that is designed for personal actualization, personal, very personal. It's your setting. Huh? I am going to tell you a story. You want to hear a story? A very beautiful story. One day I was watching a television show in Channel Video. It was the Jacob Brunowski, you know, who wrote the book, The Ascent of Man. And this book was taken to television. And there was a moment in which he mentioned the name of Simon Rodia. Simon Rodia. And I knew very superficially Simon Rodia. And I knew that Simon Rodia was a Jacques for all trades, a handyman who lived in Watts, this neighborhood of Lausanne, and built the tower, the famous tower, Watts Tower. And I knew that. But what I did not know, and only a man of sensitivity could convey to me, was the something that he said, Renaud said, in the television show. He said, I consider the Watchtower as one of the wonders of the world, comparable to the Egyptian pyramids or the Mexican pyramids, something as great as this artistic one. And he said, I knew this man. One day I met him. And I asked him, Simon, why did you do this? He was never exposed to schooling. He did not learn architecture, design, just. And he said, how could you do that? And he said, well, after being a handyman and tile setting for 30 years, one day I felt a craving for doing something big that would immortalize me. I don't know how to explain it. Felt something. I had something to do, to show, to just to live. I was to see big. And how did you learn to prepare that? You know, if you are a sculptor, you have already pointed. You know that the materials that you use have to be fabricated by yourself, because you cannot buy them ready in the store. You have to produce them. You have to invent them. The great sculptors, as well as the great painters, there is when you as a painter you need a yellow or a blue. The blue is never in the store for you. You have to combine at least the blue you see in your mind. And the producer does not produce that yellow. So you have to produce. It's an agony to the person. It's a idiosyncratic. It's a unique kind of thing that you have to do. And then when Bruno said, told us, immediately, in my mind, I triggered the history of Simon Hadier. And I know what happened with Simon Hadier. Because I know the pattern of this. I have studied the pattern of creativity, and I know what happened. I can stop here and speak with you the rest of the night about Simon Hadier instead of public administration and administrative theory. That's so good. Although it's a personal thing. What did he do? He created a setting. The setting in which he did that was the backyard, his backyard. He was doing things, asking bringing those materials in the backyard, and people would pass by and say, what this man is doing is crazy. Just taking Los Angeles Times, all Los Angeles Times, or newspapers and doing this. He's crazy. Well, but, then they saw some kind of foreign coming. And I can imagine that the neighborhood, at a certain moment when the neighborhood saw that some kind of shade was coming, the neighborhood felt touched by it. Because any time that you see a person accomplishing a form that is unique, it can do nothing but be moved. It's the most moving thing that can exist is the accomplishment of a person as unique. Is the derivative of the uniqueness, the artistic or whatever. And he created that thing. And the whole community shared. And today, what's that is the pride of that neighborhood. One man, but he began in his phenomenon. But you do not need to be a genius like Simon Rodriguez. You know, people have places to indulge in pottery. I have my office. My office is a phenomenon. Your office is a phenomenon. You know, each of you has a phenomenon, of course. Some more than that. So we need to have this. So a phenomenon is a setting in which 1, 2, 3, or 5 persons live in the maximum. The Beatles. The Beatles. Of course, they have their phenomenon. The place in which they enjoy to get together to see. So, in my book, I analyze the question of style of phenomenon. One of the things I say is that 5 is maximum. Okay, now you have here normlessness. So come down. So a phenomenon is a place in which you are free from superimposed prescriptions. But you are not free from prescriptions. The only thing that happens is that the prescriptions that you abide by in the phenomenon are derived from the nature of the task that you select. You have to be a hard-working person in order to do your thing. To do your thing. You want to do your thing? To do your thing is not to be idle. You have to work hard. Anyone can only do his or her thing when he works hard. And the task that each person selects as representative of his or her uniqueness is entails a certain prescription. To write a book, I tell you, it's very hard. The book that you have to write, it's very hard. It's not easy. The more personal it is, the harder it is to write music. When we listen to Mozart or Bach, you know, the Bach music, they give us an impression of easiness. It seems that that's the notes, the themes, the melody of Bach are so easy. It seems that angels, children can do that. But I tell you, what costed to Bach to produce those things that come out as simple, a lot of work. So there are prescriptions, but the prescriptions are not superimposed, and that they are derived from it. That's why they sound less paid than the ones. And you go here, normlessness. Normlessness. Zero prescription. Of course, there are people who, for some reason, are unable to yield to prescriptions. Sometimes they are unable to you, to descriptions, to norms, not because they are weak, just the opposite, because they are strong. People who are so strong, so lucid, so sharp, that they cannot comply with prescriptions, superimposed prescriptions. And sometimes a person like this, for his biographical reasons, does not have the means to produce or to be what is corresponded to her or his nature, and becomes one of the persons that you see in the Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. You see this normlessness people. They always look to the ground and do something, but they are aimless. They don't know where to go with it. Salvation Army take care of the police. They don't know where they eat and so forth. Many of them are lost genius. Some are crippled or defective person. But there is an incapacity of building perception. Nothing. You don't know what to do. So they become the anomic. This is the situation of the anomic individual. The individual is anomic. So the normlessness can be a state of an individual, can be a state of a group. Sometimes groups become anomic. A mob, a group sometimes for some reason reacts as if it did not have a name. You have the looting scenes in New York and Boston when the electricity system breaks down and people do scenes and without knowing yes, they are seated by the side. Well, I tell you, to the extent that the market system is having a tremendous grip upon people's life, anomy becomes a very highly frequent phenomenon. And also the proneness to mobs increases in a society with superimposed norms are over-exercised upon people. That's why we have to be careful in this country, because this country is very much prone to mobs in certain large urban centers. You have to be careful when you leave your house and you go to places of high density of population, because something may happen. We are always highly exposed to the eclipse of the light system can bring some trouble for you. Now, so what I am saying, in another way, before we go there, what happens with the state of administrative science is that we know well how to do this. You students of public administration, students of business administration, you are taught how to do these organizations that belong to this enclave. This is all we teach in the School of Public Administration. We know damn well how to do effective, efficient economizing, and that's all we teach. We have an expertise for please, tremendous expertise. You know that. That's all you know. That's why I say that Administrative scholarship is now in trouble. It's backward. It's anachronistic. What you are learning in classroom, in School of Public Administration, is anachronistic. Because they are teaching you something that is overdone, something that is to be delimited. The state of our field is behind, is lagging behind the contemporary history of the United States, the contemporary history of the world. We are parochial. We are parochial. You learn parochialistic strategies of designing an anarchic organization. And what I am saying is that we have to expand the spectrum of our teaching. We have to know the expertise to organize phenomena. He says that if you tell me what you want to do as a person, you may not know even what you want to do. And there are techniques, psychological techniques, that help you to know yourself. And then if you want a setting, I think that we should learn the expertise to help people to produce their phenomenon setting. We have to have the expertise to design isomers. We do not know. What we do is extrapolate criteria that are valid here, to here, to here. See how we treat anonymous people. We try to make them straight persons. We try to socialize them to the society as it is, which is wrong. They have proved that they cannot be socialized. They have proved that they have to be treated as a special. So the recuperative institutions work under the premises of the marketed society, and necessarily they fail. We do not have the expertise for resocializing these people and giving them a sense of meaningfulness. And I do not have to go into that. So what I'm saying is that we have to expand the spectrum of administrative